The audiologist's words fell like stones into water, sinking slow and heavy. Mrs. Chen, your daughter was born profoundly deaf. Her auditory nerves didn't develop properly. She will never hear your voice, never hear music, never hear her own name. I stared at my 3-month-old daughter sleeping in my arms, her tiny chest rising and falling, completely oblivious to the silence that would define her life. The doctor kept talking, something about cochlear implants being ineffective in her case, about learning sign language, about support groups for parents of deaf children. But I couldn't hear any of it. Because all I could hear was silence. The silence my daughter would live in forever. My name is Maya Chen. I'm 32 years old. I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm a pediatric nurse. I've spent 10 years helping other people's children get better, get stronger, survive impossible odds. But I couldn't help my own daughter. And this is the story of how I discovered she wasn't actually deaf, and how the person who kept her silent was someone I trusted with her life. Before we continue, if you've ever fought for someone who couldn't fight for themselves, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you've been told by doctors. And next week I'm bringing you an insane story about a mother who discovered her son's teacher was secretly drugging him to keep him calm in class. You absolutely cannot miss that. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and let's get into how one mother's instinct exposed a medical conspiracy. Let me take you back to the beginning. March 15th, 2024. The day my world shattered. I'd had a perfect pregnancy. No complications. No warning signs. My husband Daniel and I had spent 9 months preparing, painting the nursery soft lavender, buying tiny clothes, reading every parenting book we could find. Labor was long but normal. 22 hours of contractions. Then finally, at 3:47 a.m., our daughter was born. Lily Rose Chen. 7 pounds, 4 ounces. 20 inches long. Perfect pink skin. Dark hair. Eyes squeezed shut against the bright hospital lights. The most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. They placed her on my chest, and I felt my heart crack open with a love so fierce it hurt. "Hi, baby girl," I whispered. "Hi, Lily. I'm your mama." She didn't cry much. The nurses said that was normal. Some babies are just calm. We went home 3 days later. And that's when I started noticing things. Small things at first. When Daniel would come home from work and call out "I'm home," from the front door, Lily wouldn't startle. Wouldn't turn her head. Wouldn't react at all. When our neighbor's dog barked right outside her nursery window, loud, aggressive barking that made me jump, Lily kept sleeping peacefully. When I vacuumed near her crib, when the smoke alarm went off because I burned toast, when a car alarm blared in the driveway, nothing. She just lay there. Calm. Silent. Unreactive. I told myself she was just a good sleeper. A calm baby. That I was lucky. But deep down, in that place where mothers know things before they can prove them, I knew something was wrong. At her 2-month checkup, I mentioned it to our pediatrician. Dr. Sarah Voss. 45 years old. 20 years of experience. Came highly recommended. Everyone in our neighborhood loved her. "Dr. Voss, I think something might be wrong with Lily's hearing. She doesn't respond to loud noises. She doesn't turn toward my voice." Dr. Voss smiled that professional, reassuring smile. "Infants develop at different rates, Maya. Some babies are just less reactive to sound. Let's give it another month and see." But trust me, I've been doing this for 20 years. If there was something seriously wrong, I'd see it. I wanted to believe her. So I waited. 1 month later, nothing had changed. Lily was 3 months old. Still not responding to sound. Still perfectly calm no matter how loud the world around her got. I made another appointment. "Dr. Voss, I really think we need to test her hearing. This isn't normal." She sighed. Not unkindly, but like she was dealing with an over-anxious first-time mother. "Maya, you're a nurse. You know that parental anxiety can sometimes." "I'm not anxious. I'm observant. My daughter doesn't respond to sound. At all." Dr. Voss looked at Lily, then back at me. "All right. If it will give you peace of mind, I'll refer you to an audiologist." 2 weeks later, we sat in Dr. Rebecca Holland's office. Pediatric audiologist. Specialist in infant hearing disorders. She ran tests. ABR test, auditory brainstem response. Tiny electrodes attached to Lily's head while she slept, measuring her brain's response to sound. OAE test, otoacoustic emissions. A small probe in her ear, checking if the inner ear was functioning. She ran them twice. Then she looked at me, and I saw it in her eyes before she said a word. Pity. Mrs. Chen, I'm very sorry. Your daughter has bilateral profound sensory neural hearing loss. The words didn't make sense at first. What does that mean? It means she's deaf. Completely. In both ears. The room tilted. But, how? Why? Her auditory nerves didn't develop properly. It's congenital, she was born this way. We don't always know why it happens. Sometimes it's genetic. Sometimes it just happens. Daniel grabbed my hand. His grip was too tight. Can it be fixed? He asked. Surgery? Hearing aids? Something. Dr. Holland's face was gentle but firm. Hearing aids won't help. They amplify sound, but if the auditory nerve isn't there to transmit the signal to the brain, there's nothing to amplify. Cochlear implants are an option for some children, but in Lily's case. She pulled up the scan on her computer. See this area here? The nerve pathway is severely underdeveloped. Even with an implant, I don't believe she would gain functional hearing. I stared at the screen. At my daughter's brain. At the parts that didn't work. So she'll never hear. I'm very sorry. Daniel started crying. Quiet, shaking sobs. I didn't cry. I couldn't. Because my brain had switched into nurse mode. Clinical. Detached. Survival. What do we do now? Dr. Holland handed me a folder full of pamphlets. You learn sign language. You connect with the deaf community. You adapt. Many deaf children live full, happy, successful lives. This isn't the end of her world. It's just different. We drove home in silence. Lily slept in her car seat, completely unaware that her parents' hearts were breaking. That night, I stood in her nursery and watched her sleep. She looked so peaceful, so perfect. How could something be so wrong inside something so beautiful? I picked up the little musical mobile we'd hung above her crib. The one that played Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. She would never hear it. Would never hear me sing to her. Would never hear her own name. I turned off the mobile and sat down in the rocking chair. And finally, I cried. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep and primal. The kind that feels like it might split you open. Daniel found me an hour later, still crying, holding Lily's baby blanket against my chest. He knelt beside me. We're going to be okay, he whispered. But I didn't believe him. Because how do you mother a child who can't hear you say, I love you? The next 3 months were the hardest of my life. We started learning American Sign Language. Spent hours every night watching videos, practicing fingerspelling, memorizing signs for basic words. Mama, Daddy, milk, more, love. We joined a support group for parents of deaf children. Sat in a circle once a week listening to other parents share their stories. Some were hopeful. Our daughter is thriving. She's learning to sign so fast. Some were angry. Why did this happen to us? What did we do wrong? Some were just tired. Exhausted from fighting a world that wasn't built for their children. I was all three. We baby-proofed the house differently than other parents. Not just covering outlets and locking cabinets, but installing visual alert systems. Lights that flashed when the doorbell rang, when the smoke alarm went off, when someone was calling. Because Lily wouldn't hear danger. We'd have to show it to her. Dr. Voss checked on us regularly. How are you doing, Maya? We're managing. And Lily? Any changes? No. She's still completely non-responsive to sound. That's to be expected. But she's healthy otherwise. Yes. Dr. Voss prescribed supplements. Vitamin regimens to support her overall neurological development. It won't restore her hearing, she said, but it will help her brain develop in other ways. Deaf children often have enhanced visual processing. We want to support that. I gave Lily the vitamins every morning. Tiny drops mixed into her bottle. And I watched her. Constantly. Looking for any sign, any response, any hint that maybe the doctors were wrong. But there was nothing. Lily grew. She smiled. She learned to roll over, to sit up, to grab toys. But she never turned toward sound. Never reacted when I called her name. Never startled when something loud happened nearby. At 6 months old, we had her re-evaluated. Same tests. Same results. I'm sorry, Mrs. Chen. There's been no change. Her hearing loss is permanent. I nodded. Thanked the doctor. Took my daughter home. And that night, I did something I'm not proud of. I waited until Daniel was asleep. Then I went into Lily's room, stood beside her crib, and clapped my hands as loud as I could. Nothing. I clapped again. Louder. Nothing. I yelled her name. Lily. Nothing. She just kept sleeping. Peaceful. Silent. I sank to the floor and cried again. Because I wanted so badly to be wrong. I wanted the doctors to have made a mistake. I wanted my daughter to hear me. But she couldn't. And I had to accept that. Except. I couldn't. Because 2 weeks later, I saw something that changed everything. It was a Tuesday morning. Early September. Lily was almost 7 months old. I was in the kitchen making coffee. Lily was in her bouncer in the living room, playing with a soft fabric book. The TV was on, some morning news show I wasn't really watching. Just background noise in a house that was learning to live without it. I was pouring milk into my coffee when I heard it. A commercial came on. Loud, upbeat music. One of those annoying jingles that get stuck in your head. And from the living room, I heard a sound I'd never heard before. Lily laughing. Not just a small giggle. A full, delighted laugh. I froze. Set down the milk. Walked slowly into the living room. Lily was staring at the TV, bouncing in her seat, smiling, laughing at the bright colors and movement on the screen. That wasn't unusual. She'd always been very visual. But then the commercial ended. The music stopped. And Lily stopped laughing. She went still. Looked confused. Like something she'd been enjoying had suddenly disappeared. My heart started pounding. I grabbed the remote. Rewound the commercial. Played it again. The music started. Lily's face lit up. She started bouncing again. Laughing. I stopped the commercial. The music stopped. Lily stopped. Looked around. Confused again. I played it one more time. Same reaction. She was responding to the music. No. That's impossible. She's deaf. 3 different doctors confirmed it. The tests don't lie. But I watched it happen 3 times in a row. Music plays equals Lily happy. Music stops equals Lily confused. I turned off the TV completely. Sat down on the floor in front of Lily's bouncer. My hands were shaking. Lily. I said softly. Nothing. I said it louder. Lily. Nothing. I clapped my hands right in front of her face. Nothing. So why did she react to the music? Maybe it was the visual? The bright colors on the screen? I turned the TV back on but muted it completely. The commercial played silently. Lily watched it. Smiled a little at the colors. But she didn't laugh. Didn't bounce. Didn't react the way she had when the music was playing. I unmuted it. The music came back. Lily's whole face changed. She lit up. Started bouncing. Laughing. Oh my God. She can hear it. No. No, that's impossible. The tests. I grabbed my phone. Called Dr. Voss's office. This is Maya Chen. I need to speak to Dr. Voss immediately. She's with a patient right now. Can I take a message? Tell her it's urgent. Tell her it's about Lily's hearing. Is Lily in distress? No, but. Then I can have Dr. Voss call you back this afternoon. Fine. Have her call me. I hung up. Looked at Lily. She was still bouncing, still smiling at the now silent TV. I needed to test this properly. I went to the nursery. Found the musical mobile we'd never used. Brought it back to the living room. Wound it up. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star started playing. Lily's head turned. Toward the sound. My breath caught. I moved to the other side of the room. Wound it up again. She turned her head the other direction. Following the sound. I started crying. Not sad crying. Shocked crying. She can hear. My daughter can hear. But how? The test said. My phone rang. Dr. Voss. Maya, my nurse said you called? Is everything all right with Lily? Dr. Voss, I think. I think she can hear. Silence on the other end. Then, Maya, we've been through this. The tests were very clear. I know what the test said. But I just watched her respond to music. She turned her head toward sound. She reacted when I played a musical toy. Maya. Dr. Voss's voice was gentle, patient, like she was talking to a child. Sometimes parents want so badly for things to be different that they see patterns that aren't there. Babies respond to vibrations, to visual cues. This wasn't vibration. She turned her head toward sound. She laughed at music on the TV. I understand this is difficult. I'm not imagining this. Why don't you bring her in tomorrow? We'll take a look. But Maya, I don't want you to get your hopes up. Sometimes parents in grief go through a period of denial. I'm not in denial. I'm a nurse. I know what I saw. All right. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. We'll run some basic tests. She hung up. I stood there, phone in my hand, staring at my daughter. Lily looked back at me and smiled. And in that moment, I knew. Something was very, very wrong. Not with Lily. With the doctors. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Daniel, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head. The diagnosis. The tests. The absolute certainty from 3 different doctors that Lily was profoundly deaf. But I'd seen her respond to sound. Multiple times. Consistently. How was that possible? Around 2 a.m., I got out of bed. Went to my office. Pulled up Lily's medical records on my laptop. As a nurse, I knew how to read medical charts. I'd reviewed these documents a dozen times before, looking for answers, looking for hope. But this time, I was looking for something different. Inconsistencies. I started with the ABR test results from Dr. Holland's office. Auditory brainstem response test. It measures the brain's electrical activity in response to sound. Lily's results showed no response. Flat lines across all frequencies, which should mean complete deafness. But I'd seen her respond to music. I pulled up research articles about false negatives in ABR testing. There were cases, rare, but documented, where ABR tests failed to detect hearing in infants due to improper electrode placement sedation interfering with results neurological conditions that masked responses equipment malfunction. Was it possible Lily's test had been a false negative? I kept reading. Found an article about a case in Boston where an infant was misdiagnosed as deaf due to a technician error during testing. The child had actually had normal hearing. The family sued. I kept digging. Found another case in Michigan. Another in California. All infants. All misdiagnosed. All eventually discovered to have functional hearing. But all those cases were accidents. Mistakes. What if this wasn't a mistake? The thought came out of nowhere, and it made my stomach turn. What if someone wanted Lily to be deaf? No. That's insane. Who would want that? Why would anyone? I stopped. Looked at the prescription history in Lily's chart. Dr. Voss had prescribed vitamin supplements at 3 months old to support neurological development in deaf children. I'd been giving them to Lily every morning for 4 months. Tiny drops mixed into her bottle. I'd never questioned it. Why would I? Dr. Voss was our pediatrician. I trusted her completely. But now, I went to the bathroom, found the vitamin bottle in the medicine cabinet, brought it back to my office. Read the label. Neurosupport pediatric formula, vitamin complex for neurological development. Seemed normal. But I pulled up the manufacturer's website anyway. Searched for the specific product. Found it. Read the ingredients list. Most of it was standard, vitamin D, B12, omega-3s. But at the bottom of the list, in small print, contains trace amounts of auditory nerve suppressant for management of auditory hypersensitivity in pediatric patients. My blood went cold. Auditory nerve suppressant. I read it again. And again. Then I searched the term. Found medical articles about medications used to temporarily suppress hearing in patients with extreme sound sensitivity, usually adults with traumatic brain injuries who needed their auditory systems to rest during healing. Temporary. Reversible. But only meant for short-term use. And never, ever meant for infants. I looked at the dosage instructions on Lily's bottle. Give 0.5 milliliters daily. I looked at the research articles. Adult dosage for temporary auditory suppression, 0.2 milliliters daily for maximum 2 weeks. Lily had been taking more than double the adult dose. For 4 months. My hands started shaking so hard I had to set the bottle down. Someone was keeping my daughter deaf. On purpose. I grabbed my phone. Called Daniel. He answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. Maya? What's wrong? Come to the office. Now. What? It's 2 in the morning. Daniel, come here right now. 2 minutes later, he stumbled into the office in his pajamas. What's going on? I showed him everything. The vitamin bottle. The ingredients list. The research articles. The dosage comparison. He read it all twice. Then he looked at me, face white. Are you saying Dr. Voss is drugging our daughter? I'm saying someone is. And she prescribed it. But why? That doesn't make any sense. Why would a doctor want to keep a baby deaf? I didn't have an answer, but I was going to find one. The next morning, I didn't give Lily her vitamins. Instead, I saved the remaining liquid in a small plastic container. And I called a friend from nursing school who worked at a private lab. Hey, it's Maya Chen. I need a favor. Can you run a chemical analysis on something for me? Off the books. She hesitated. Maya, what kind of something? A pediatric supplement. I just need to know exactly what's in it. Is this about your daughter? Yes. Another pause. Bring it by this afternoon. I'll see what I can do. At 2 p.m., I walked into Dr. Voss's office with Lily. Dr. Voss greeted us with her usual warm smile. Maya. And sweet Lily. How are we doing today? We're fine. I wanted to follow up on what I mentioned yesterday. About her responding to sound. Of course. Let's take a look. She examined Lily. Checked her ears, her eyes, her reflexes. Then she pulled out a small handheld device, a portable audiometer. Let's do a quick sound test, shall we? She held it near Lily's ear and pressed a button. A high-pitched beep. Lily didn't react. See? Dr. Voss said gently. No response. But I watched Lily's face. And I saw something Dr. Voss didn't see. Lily's eyes flickered. Just slightly. Like she'd heard something but was trying not to show it. Dr. Voss tried 3 more sounds. No reaction. I know this is hard, Maya. But we have to trust the medical evidence. Lily is deaf. What you saw yesterday was likely just coincidental timing. What's in the vitamins you prescribed? I asked suddenly. Dr. Voss blinked. What? The neuro support supplements. What exactly is in them? Just standard vitamins. Why? I read the ingredients list. There's an auditory nerve suppressant in there. Her face didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. That's a trace amount. Completely harmless. It's actually meant to reduce auditory stress in children with processing disorders. Lily doesn't have an auditory processing disorder. She's supposedly deaf. Maya, I don't appreciate your tone. And I don't appreciate being lied to. Silence. Dr. Voss set down her stethoscope. I think you should go home and get some rest. You're clearly under a lot of stress. I'm having the vitamins analyzed. By an independent lab. Her face went pale. Just for a second. Then she smiled again. That's certainly your right as a parent. But I assure you, everything I've prescribed is FDA approved and perfectly safe. I stood up. Picked up Lily. We'll see. I walked out. And I knew. She was hiding something. 3 days later, my friend from the lab called. Maya, you need to sit down. Saturday. What did you find? That supplement you gave me? It's not a vitamin complex. I mean, it has vitamins in it, but the active ingredient is something called Neurolox 7. What's that? It's an experimental drug. Not FDA approved. It was being tested about 5 years ago for treatment of severe auditory hallucinations in schizophrenic patients. My stomach dropped. What does it do? It temporarily blocks auditory nerve signals from reaching the brain. Basically induces temporary deafness. Temporary. Yes. The effects reverse once you stop taking it. Usually within 48 to 72 hours. I couldn't breathe. Are you telling me my daughter isn't deaf? I'm telling you this drug would make her appear deaf on every standard hearing test. Her auditory nerves are probably fine. They're just being chemically blocked. I hung up. Looked at the calendar. It had been 3 days since I stopped giving Lily the vitamins. If the lab was right, if the drug was wearing off, I ran to the living room. Lily was in her playpen, chewing on a soft block. I grabbed the musical mobile. Wound it up. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star played. Lily's head snapped toward the sound. Her eyes went wide. She dropped the block and reached toward the mobile, babbling. Not random baby sounds. She was trying to follow the melody. I started crying. Oh my God. Oh my God, baby girl, you can hear me. I picked her up. Held her close. Mama, I said into her ear. She turned her head toward my voice. Looked right at me. And smiled. My daughter could hear. She'd always been able to hear. Someone had been drugging her to make her appear deaf. And I was going to find out who. And why. That night, Daniel and I sat in our living room with evidence spread across the coffee table. The vitamin bottle. The lab report. Lily's medical records. Articles about Neurolox 7. We need to go to the police, Daniel said. Not yet. We need more. We need to know who's behind this and why. Maya, someone has been poisoning our daughter for 4 months. We need to. If we go to the police now, Dr. Voss will destroy evidence. She'll claim it was a prescription error. She'll get a slap on the wrist and move on. I want her destroyed. Daniel stared at me. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we document everything. We record everything. We build a case so airtight she can't escape it. I pulled up Dr. Voss's website. Read her bio. Then I clicked on Research and Publications. A list of medical journal articles she'd authored appeared. Most were standard pediatric topics. But one caught my eye. Induced auditory deprivation in infant populations, a longitudinal study of neurological adaptation. Published 18 months ago. I clicked on it. Started reading. And my blood turned to ice. The study documented 12 infants who had been given auditory nerve suppressants to study how their brains adapted to deafness over time. All the infants were described as profoundly deaf from birth. But the methodology section revealed something horrifying. Subjects were administered Neurolox 7 beginning at 8 to 12 weeks of age to induce temporary auditory suppression. This allowed for controlled observation of neurological development in the absence of auditory input. She'd been experimenting on babies, making them deaf on purpose, to study their brain development. I kept reading, checked the dates of the study. It had run for 18 months. Ended 6 months ago. Right around the time Lily was born. Daniel, look at this. He read over my shoulder. Is she saying she made babies deaf for a research study? Yes. That's illegal. That's why she buried it. Look at the journal it was published in. It's obscure. Foreign. No peer review. She couldn't publish this in a legitimate journal because ethics boards would never approve it. I scrolled down to the acknowledgement section. This research was funded by the Harman Foundation for Neurological Research. I Googled it. The Harman Foundation was a private organization that funded experimental medical research. Controversial research. The kind legitimate institutions wouldn't touch. I dug deeper. Found the foundation's board members. And there, third name down. Dr. Rebecca Holland. The audiologist who diagnosed Lily. Oh my God. Daniel leaned closer. What? The audiologist who did Lily's hearing tests. She's on the board of the foundation that funded Dr. Voss's research. So they're working together. They're all working together. I kept searching. Found financial records. The Harman Foundation had paid Dr. Voss $340,000 for her study, and they'd paid Dr. Holland $85,000 for subject recruitment and diagnostic services. They'd been finding babies, making them deaf, studying them, for money, and Lily was one of them. We're going to the police, I said. Now. The next morning, Daniel and I walked into the Portland Police Department with a folder full of evidence. Medical records. lab reports, financial documents, research papers. We spent 3 hours giving statements. They assigned a detective, Maria Torres, mid-40s, sharp eyes. She listened to everything without interrupting. When we finished, she sat back and said, "This is the most disturbing case I've handled in 20 years. Can you arrest them?" Daniel asked. "We need a warrant first." "But yes. Based on what you've shown me, we have grounds for criminal charges. Child endangerment, medical fraud, conducting unauthorized human experiments." She stood up. "Give me 48 hours. Don't contact Dr. Voss or Dr. Holland. Don't tell anyone what you found. Let us handle this quietly." We agreed. 2 days later, Detective Torres called. "We've arrested Dr. Voss and Dr. Holland. We also identified 9 other families whose children were part of the study. All of them have been given the same drug. We're in the process of notifying them now." 9 other families. 9 other babies who'd been made deaf for an experiment. "What happens now?" I asked. "The DA is building a case. This will likely go to trial. We'll need you to testify." "I'll be there." The trial lasted 3 weeks. The courtroom was packed. 10 families. 10 babies who'd been experimented on. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records showing payments from the Harmon Foundation. Lab results proving Neurolox 7 was in the supplements. Dr. Voss's published research paper documenting the experiments. Testimony from parents who trusted these doctors. The defense tried to claim it was experimental treatment, not experimentation. That the parents had consented without realizing it, buried in medical forms they'd signed. But the prosecutor tore that argument apart. These doctors deliberately induced deafness in healthy infants. They lied to parents. They falsified test results. They poisoned children for grant money. The jury took 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Dr. Voss got 15 years in prison. Dr. Holland got 12 years. Both lost their medical licenses permanently. The Harmon Foundation was shut down and forced to pay $20 million in damages to the families. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. "Mrs. Chen, how do you feel about the verdict?" I looked at Lily in my arms. She was almost a year old now. Hearing perfectly. Babbling. Laughing. Responding to every sound. "I feel like my daughter got her voice back," I said. "And these doctors will never steal." It's been 6 months since the trial ended. Lily is 18 months old now. She's saying words. Mama. Dada. Up. More. Every word is a miracle. We took her to a real audiologist, one who had no connection to Dr. Voss or Dr. Holland. The tests showed her hearing is completely normal. No damage from the drugs. No long-term effects. Just a healthy, happy, hearing little girl. Last week, she said something that made me cry. We were sitting on the floor playing with blocks. I was stacking them, she was knocking them down, both of us laughing. And she looked at me and said, clear as day, "Love you, Mama." 3 words I was told I'd never hear. 3 words that proved everything we fought for was worth it. Daniel and I are working with a foundation now, one dedicated to protecting children from medical experimentation. We're pushing for stricter oversight of pediatric research, for mandatory independent review of all infant medical diagnoses, for harsher penalties for doctors who exploit vulnerable patients. Because what happened to Lily happens more than people realize. Not always this extreme. But there are doctors out there who see children as test subjects instead of patients, who value research grants more than lives, who hide behind white coats and medical degrees while doing unspeakable things. And someone needs to stop them. Today, I'm watching Lily play in our backyard. She's chasing bubbles, laughing every time one pops. And I can hear her laughter. Clear. Beautiful. Real. I think about all the parents out there right now being told their child will never hear, never walk, never talk, never get better. Some of those diagnoses are real. But some aren't. And if there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, keep pushing. Keep asking questions. Get second opinions. Third opinions. Fourth opinions. Don't let anyone, not even a doctor, tell you to stop advocating for your child. Because sometimes the people we trust most are the ones lying to us. And sometimes the miracle everyone says is impossible is just being hidden by someone who doesn't want you to find it. Lily runs over to me, arms up, wanting to be held. I pick her up and she wraps her little arms around my neck. "Mama," she whispers into my ear. And I whisper back, "I hear you, baby girl. I'll always hear you." If this story moved you, if it made you question anything you've been told, subscribe to Tamar Stories right now. Because next week, I'm bringing you an insane story about a mother who discovered her son's teacher was secretly drugging him to keep him calm in class, and the lawsuit that exposed an entire school district. You absolutely cannot miss that. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had to fight for someone when everyone else told you to give up? Share your story. Let's build a community of people who refuse to stay silent. And remember, sometimes the person who saves your child isn't a doctor. Sometimes it's you. See you next week.